we are at the Agnes Etherington Art Centre at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. And with me are two Africanist professors here at Queen's University who are curating a community-based art collection here, and they're here with us to explain to us what it is all about and what we should expect from that show. To my left is Professor Allison Goebel, and to her left is Professor Marc Epprecht. And without any further ado, I would like to start with Professor Allison Goebel.
So this was a really interesting invitation from Pat Sullivan at the Agnes for Marc and I to co-guest curate the next exhibition of the Lang Collection for African Art. And because we're not art historians or even know very much at all about art, I'm a sociologist, Marc is a historian. So although we work in Africa, we were a little bit nervous about the invitation, but also really interested in it as an experiment.
True, we were, I think, nervous about saying yes because didn't want to portray ourselves as being experts in a kind of well-trodden path of, Europeans and Americans, North Americans claiming to be experts on something that they're not, and portraying, that there's kind of power relationship there in that, which we didn't want to do, I think it's fair to say. So we were wrestling, should we accept the invitation, or should we try and conceive of a different way to do it? And bearing in mind, for me, I was a young man when there was a big roar around the show in Toronto, the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum. I think it was called Out of Africa, something like that. And it was, despite their intentions, it came across as a kind of colonial representation of Africa. So we absolutely wanted to avoid that at all costs. And moreover, see if we can build, there's a great nascent community of Africanists and African scholars and students here at Queen's, and we do see each other now and then, but it seemed to me, anyways, this could be a spark to help us talk to each other in a new and interesting way.
The collection is put together under the working title of Stories to Tell, Africans and the Diaspora Respond to the Lang Collection. Maybe we step back and talk about what the Lang Collection is in the first place.
So basically it's an example of a mid-century, 20th century collector's collection of African art. So these were people who, just out of their own interest, would buy pieces from collectors, say in New York or Montreal or so on. So there was this kind of group of collectors who were interested in the aesthetic values, aesthetic aspects, form, and so on in African sculpture. So this was the nature of this collection, was of that sort, and they were interested in particular types of objects and sourced them from various places, primarily originally from West Africa, and almost all of it being sculpture. What does it mean that these people did this kind of collecting at this time in Canadian history, and what does this mean now that it's here in this gallery at Queen's University, and how can, as Marc's saying, given the histories of controversy around Western collecting of African art and artifacts and displaying them in museums out of their context, and with these sort of histories of colonialism attached to that, I felt, okay, this is an opportunity. How can we make this something positive rather than just sort of carry all this baggage? I was just amazed at how incredible the pieces were, and that actually got me even more excited about how important this collection actually is, with all of its complications and baggage and difficulties.
And one of the things that always struck me, and this applies to other shows of African art I've seen, is you almost never see the name of an individual artist, right? It's always, unknown, and sometimes even the country, it's unknown where it really comes from, So my first thought was, why don't we try and, go through this entire collection whatever it is, about 500 pieces, and see if we can find 20 that have names on, and we're unsuccessful in that. So it wasn't, I think, reading the dissertations that are here and the scholarship, that's partly reflects the nature of the village where it was produced, right? That there was no idea that there would be an individual who could claim this. It belonged to the whole. And so it's partly that. It's partly also the collectors didn't care, right? So that was. But the fact is that the names aren't there, so we had to then go back and rethink this. And when we got a committee together of people here on campus who might be interested, and just showed some pictures and got the discussion going, and said, well, that's pretty well a show right there. Just from examples of people seeing some of the combs, and I got a discussion going among the women on the committee about the politics of hairstyling and things like that, right? And yeah, so it took off from there.
Yeah, so we started with a small committee, a total of 6 of us all together. So us as guest curators and the rest as Africans or member of the diaspora on campus associated to Queens in some way or another. And we just brainstormed about, how can this be a positive thing for our communities, and how can it be an opportunity to invite Africans in the diaspora into the gallery on terms that perhaps is not very usual. So as participants, as people who are thinking about this collection from their perspective, rather than perhaps as viewers or as just simply as others, that are. So that was really important to us at the beginning, and so people were really excited about the idea of people in contemporary society now responding in some way to this collection. And we started, the combs was a perfect starting point, but then what we did was have each of the members of the committee, who are all linked to other groups and networks, put out a call on those networks in terms of inviting people to participate in this process. We were absolutely overwhelmed with not quantity of responses, but the quality of the responses that we got were really excellent. So we had people. We asked people to go through the collection, and it's all digitally available, so it makes it very accessible. Identify a piece or a number of pieces that they wanted to respond to, and then let us know what kind of response they wanted to make. And we made it very open, that it could be poetry, it could be an essay, it could be some kind of reflection, it could be, in some cases, as it turns out, pieces of original art that people wanted to design to respond to the collection in some way. In other cases, we had people who had objects in their own collections that they wanted to put in conversation with pieces from the Lang collection. So we have this very rich diversity of responses, and very thoughtful and very interesting. We had a community meeting here at the Agnes where we brought more people outside of the committee together who were thinking about participating, and to have a kind of bigger discussion and brainstorming.
What makes this very unique, I'm impressed actually to hear it, is that you brought in different circles of people, involved them in this. Now the question for you is, how is the public now going to benefit not only from seeing these sculptures, but also from that community conversation that you've had?
I hope it creates a space for people to talk about the many issues that arise from not just the show itself, but Africans living in Kingston. What is that like?
Just as a way of making the gallery an inviting space for Africans in the diaspora in the area, that this is our show, right? This is not just necessarily done for us or to us. This is us that did this. And so again, going back to those networks that people use to call for participation, all those people, even if they didn't participate, they've heard about it already, right? And they are now, they say, oh, well, my friend actually has a piece in this show or has written something, and so now I want to go and I'm going to bring my friends. So this is the idea of welcoming a community that is not necessarily feels like this place is for them. So that was really our one of our big hopes for this. And the fact that it's up for 2 years gives us a lot of chance to have different events that we'll be inviting to people. And yeah, so we'll try and keep the doors open. I think that's the thing.
There's certain stereotype of what African art is, right? And that has a history, and it involves masks and all that sort of thing. So one thing I hope people will take away from this is to realize, okay, African art is a lot more than masks that come from Central Africa. And so we have a number of pieces from Southern Africa, and Zimbabwe is a very distinctive artistic traditions that have a different meaning and for the artists and that as well. So I'm hoping people will come and say, Africa is more than just these weird looking masks.
What are in the works basically to bring these diverse communities and involve them not only in enjoying these arts but also in the activities that are being planned?
Planning a variety of different kinds of events, some children focused, some and in terms of timing too, making sure there's things in the evening and things on weekends and things like that, and showing some films and having discussions, bringing in some more sort of expert type of discussion, panel discussions or seminars. So trying to go for more, all kinds of different layers of activities, from sort of academic stuff to more community oriented, maybe have some food and music kind of events.
Enjoy the show, and allow me to thank Professor Allison Goebel and Professor Marc Epprecht on your behalf, and enjoy the show. Thank you.